Going back into the field, I have to remind myself that the lush colors I'm seeing could be gone very quickly, and everyone needs every drop of water they can get. My first stop is at the Grisa water pan. When I was here last, it was dry as a bone. When we last came here at the height of the dry season, it would be hard to imagine that this Grisa dam would ever fill up with water. In fact, I was standing somewhere around over there where that stone has just splashed into the water. And now life is returning to this dam. There's donkeys coming to drink water here and people bringing their tanks to be able to fill them up and survive another day in this harsh climate. But one has to wonder whether indeed this really is the level that should be represented here at the dam. What I'm told by residents is that it should be somewhere around here after a rainy season. But a shorter rain season and longer drought spells have ensured that things aren't quite the same as they used to be 10 years ago. Again, the further we move into Borana territory, the more the truth about the rains reveals itself. These herders have been walking for 50 kilometers. It's absolutely sweltering. The goats can smell the water we are carrying in our car, and soon we are surrounded. We move further. This time it's a family that we meet. They're also searching for pasture. It's getting desperate. The National Drought Management Agency says that this drought has put at least 60,000 people at risk of starvation just here in Isiolo. And aid agencies are trying to fill the gap. Here at Balambata, villagers are getting one additional ration of food in preparation for the drought to come. On my mind, though, is the conflicts that this pressure causes. I make it back to Gafarsa, where I met Salesa and Rashid. Rashid's mother and his 11-year-old son were murdered by pastoralists from another community. He's still bitter.
Ushafikiria kuwasamea watu?
Hapana. Kuna siku na tarehe. Kwa sababu mamangu hajawahi kwenda mahali ingine kufanya kitendo mbaya. Kijana wangu ni kijana kidogo class 4. Anayata hiyo mafikira. Ni innocent tu, anatembea tu kwa shule yake tu. Weekends tu ameenda kwa mama huko. Siwezi wacha hata saa nikiona siwezi wacha.
But there is cause to worry. Since we last met, another village and a school here were attacked. Again, everyone here is sure that they are being targeted for the land that they are on. And from what I've seen, the violence seems to be working. When you think of the words climate change, you often think about a rise in the temperatures. And if you were standing where I'm standing right now, you'd be right in assuming that that's the exact answer that encapsulates everything to do with the changing weather patterns that we're living through right now. What people often don't think about are emptied out villages such as this one in Belgesh, here in Isiolo County. People lived here once. These are where families cooked for one another. This is where neighbors borrowed salt from one another. And now nobody lives here because of conflict between communities. People often don't make the distinction between the conflicts on the ground and the changing weather patterns in which they live in and the environment in which they live. One would have to ask oneself, if this was caused by climate change, where are they now? In Samburu County, shallow wells on the bed of the Owasongiro River are the only way that herders can get to water for their cattle. And guns are a lot more present here. The herders' shyness about their guns has melted away now. I get the sense that they feel vulnerable at this shallow well. They say that they need to be ready in case herders from other communities show up here as well. I meet up with the Morans who I had spent time with in late September 2016. They're headed for Kom, at the border between Samburu County and Isiolo County, a dangerous place to be sure. They're set up like a military unit, but the need for grass drives them now more than anything else. Juma Leshekwet, the head of these Morans, is away checking on his family and has left his younger brother Leharto in charge.
Hapa ndio shida ya nyasi tu, lakini mvua sijanyesha kwa hapa. Kitu ngine nyasi sijaingia hapa tu, lakini maji haiko hapa. Kitu ngine nyasi iko pande ile. Iko mbali. Lakini Borana iko na shida.
Kati yenu na Borana kuna shida sasa?
Iko na shida.
Shida nieleze ni shida gani, wanafanya nini?
Shida iko na hiyo Borana iko na nyasi, lakini sisi hayuko nyasi, lakini mnasema ng'ombe hatataka kukula nyasi kwa wapi? Kwa huko. Lakini shida imepeleka sisi kwa wapi? Kwa hapa tu ya ng'ombe tu huko.
They're stressed about the grass, so they take our visit as a welcome break and let their guard down a little. We take one last photo together, capturing that moment in time before a very uncertain period in their lives.
We have the wet season grazing reserve, we have the dry season, and we have the drought grazing reserves. And you see now, currently, they are supposed to be in the wet grazing reserves, and people are now concentrating along the Wasanyiro River. And this means that they are going into reserve areas much more earlier than the normal times. Therefore, it means that concentration now, people will be moving towards Com area, and even to the drought grazing reserves of Yamicha, Duma, and even areas like Boran. And this is now an area where we also our neighboring counties, pastoralists are also moving towards the area. Those areas, for example, in Com, the Marsabit pastoralists, people from Marsabit will be moving towards Com, Samburu will be moving towards Com, and then definitely we are seeing that there will be a likelihood of resource-based conflict.
The Leshekwets are headed north to Com, a town at the border between Isiolo and Samburu County. But some of their tribesmen are heading towards the Aberdare Ranges, where I started this story, and to the Laikipia Plains. I catch up with one group of men and boys driving their cows through Rumuruti into the Aberdares in the dead of the night.
These tens and hundreds of cattle being driven across the plains have been on a very long and desperate journey, looking for grass, looking for pasture, and they're being driven up towards the Aberdare Ranges and Mount Kenya. Now the fear is that if they get there, while there might be grass up in those ranges, the temperatures will be so low, too low for them to be able to survive, and they could die in their hundreds.
Pasture for their animals is their primary concern now, and they search day and night for it. The river that once quenched the thirst of animals in this region and the rains that renew the landscape may be back, but for these communities, those rains and that river may as well have come to an end. In the next part of my journey, I go to the plains of Laikipia. I see the cost of conflict firsthand. One driven by drought, a fight for land set up since the colonial days, and bitter politics of a coming election.
This government is targeting, it wants to finish us.
We're headed down to Majianyoka, and we're the first ones who, outside of the staff of the Laikipia Nature Conservancy, have been allowed to go anywhere close to the place that was burnt just a few days ago. And to be honest, I'm a little nervous because we don't know, given there's a lot of security here, but we don't know how close or how far the raiders are, and it's dusk right now.